Today, we're diving into a really surprising story of resilience from the ancient world. It's all about how a small, persecuted community didn't just survive in a hostile environment, they actually flourished because of it. So, how is that even possible? It seems completely backward, doesn't it? I mean, how can pressure, persecution, and outright hostility, things that are meant to crush a movement, actually become the fuel that makes it grow? Well, for the first Christians, this paradox wasn't just a theory, it was their reality. So if we look at our source material from the book of Acts, it describes this violent crackdown in Jerusalem. The goal was super simple: stamp out this new movement. But it backfired, spectacularly. Instead of extinguishing the flame, the persecution ended up scattering the embers, forcing believers to flee the city. And here's the really crucial insight. This forced migration became the very engine for their expansion. The walls that were meant to contain the message were suddenly breached, and it just spilled out beyond Jerusalem, reaching entirely new communities. Now, to really grasp how remarkable this growth was, we've got to understand the kind of pressure cooker they were living in. And it wasn't just threats from the outside world. This community was also dealing with some pretty deep divisions from within. You see, this early community wasn't some unified group. It was a mix of at least two very distinct cultural camps. You had the local, Aramaic-speaking Hebrews, and then you had the Hellenists. These were Greek speakers from all over the Roman Empire. And yeah, that cultural divide was creating some real friction. Just look at this chain reaction here. It all starts with an internal argument over something as simple as distributing food. To solve it, they appoint new leaders. One of them, a Hellenist named Stephen, turns out to be such a powerful speaker that he gets executed, becoming the first martyr. This then sparks a persecution aimed specifically at his group, the Hellenists, forcing them to flee Jerusalem, which, in this incredible twist of fate, is exactly what causes the message to spread. So that's the situation. You have a young movement already fractured from the inside, and now it's been scattered by targeted violence. So how in the world did they turn this crisis into a catalyst for growth? So what was their playbook? When they were faced with all this hostility, their strategy was completely countercultural, and it tells us everything about the real source of their power. This quote from the first letter of Peter just perfectly captures their whole approach. It wasn't about shouting louder than everyone else or winning arguments. No. It was about living a life of such compelling hope and integrity that it just naturally made other people curious. The goal was to make people ask, "Hey, what is it that you have? Why are you so different?" Their blueprint had three really clear steps. First, the conviction had to be real, rooted deep in your heart. Second, you had to be ready to actually explain that hope. And third, and this is so crucial, the way you did it had to be with gentleness and respect. The way they shared their message was every bit as important as the message itself. I mean, think about that for a second. You're facing hostility, ridicule, even the threat of death, and your response is gentleness. That requires an absolutely extraordinary source of inner strength. This wasn't just about gritting your teeth. They believed they had been given a specific spiritual resource for this exact purpose. The Gospel of John gives us the answer. Jesus promised his followers a defender or an advocate. Now, the original Greek word here describes someone who is called to stand right beside you in a trial, not to attack the opposition, but to assist and support you. It's a promise of inner strength and counsel, not outer aggression. So this promise, "I will not leave you as orphans," it became the absolute bedrock of their resilience. The belief that they were not abandoned in a hostile world. Well, that's what gave them the capacity for both profound courage and this surprising compassion. But this hope, it wasn't created in a vacuum. It was deeply rooted in a much, much older story. A kind of collective memory of liberation that had defined their identity for centuries. Commentary on Psalm 65 really reveals how they viewed their situation. They didn't see their own suffering as some random, isolated crisis. No, instead, they saw it as the next chapter in a long unfolding story of a God who liberates. And this gave their faith three really powerful dimensions. It was rooted in the past, remembering these huge stories of liberation like the Exodus. It was alive in the present through their own personal experiences and testimony. And it was aimed at the future, holding on to this incredible hope for the liberation of all humanity. This past, present, future perspective gave their hope amazing depth and stability. You can even see this in their language. The Hebrew word that's often translated as dreadful or terrible
is probably better understood as awe-inspiring. It was the kind of awe you'd feel for a powerful king who could absolutely guarantee your safety. So their god was not someone to cower from, but a source of ultimate security.
And all of this, the history of liberation, the sense of awe, the hope for the future, it all pointed to a single explosive event: the resurrection. For them, this wasn't just a story, it was the ultimate proof that hope could overcome despair, and that life was, in the end, more powerful than death itself.
So, what can we take away from this ancient blueprint for resilience? What does it all mean for us, right now?
Well, it's a model that doesn't rely on shouting the loudest or having the most power. It's built on the quiet strength of personal integrity, on a deep internal source of courage, and on a powerful connection to a much larger story of liberation and hope. So the challenge that was posed to those first believers, it echoes right through the centuries to us today. It's not a command to argue or to preach, but it's an invitation to simply be ready, ready to give a reason for the hope that is in you. The final question then isn't just for them, it's for us. What's your reason?